23-year-old Henry van Breda lived a privileged life, growing up in Perth and on the Sunshine Coast of Queensland. Then, a few years ago, he and his well-to-do family moved back here to the beautiful vineyards of Stellenbosch in their homeland of South Africa. All appeared well until one night in January 2015, when Henry's mother, father and brother were brutally murdered, slaughtered by a man wielding an axe. Last month, the court decided that that man was Henry and sentenced him to life behind bars. But there's one person who's not so convinced. Daniela Jansa van Rensburg believes Henry, her boyfriend, is not a killer, but a victim.
Steven, what is your emergency?
I need an ambulance. Lots of.
The ambulance?
Yes, please.
What's your name, sir?
Henry van Breda.
It's just after 7 in the morning in the affluent South African wine region of Stellenbosch.
And you, the patient?
No, my family is someone attacked my family.
Now, who is injured?
I think everyone.
Everyone in your house?
Everyone, 4 people, yes.
20-year-old Henry van Breda is calling for help.
What are the injuries?
Head injuries.
Are they conscious?
I don't think so. My sister's moving, but that's it.
Are there any suspects on scene?
No, they ran away.
With what were they attacked?
An axe.
And you need the ambulance to go to what?
Number 12, Hosker Street.
He is calm and in control.
G-O-S.
G-O-S.
Totally at odds with someone who's claiming he's just witnessed his family being attacked with an axe.
Unconscious, huh?
Yes, and bleeding from the head, please.
Incredibly, as his parents, brother and sister lay dead or dying, Henry spends more than 25 minutes on the phone with emergency services.
How long will the ambulance take?
It won't be too long. They'll send the ambulance out as soon as possible.
Crime in South Africa is not unusual, but even the police and paramedics who see it every day weren't ready for what was to come.
The moment you walked upstairs, you see the blood spatter and stuff, and then you think to yourself, what happened here? What went on?
Detective Sergeant Marlon Apollos has been a policeman for 14 years, and he was about to step into the biggest case of his career. It was particularly vicious, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to get a whole family axed dead to death, it is difficult. You wouldn't expect a crime like this to happen in a security complex in a place like Stellenbosch.
Yet that's exactly what happened. And perhaps most shocking of all was the notion that the enemy had been living in the family home. That Henry van Breda, a son and brother, did this. What did Henry tell you had happened?
He told me everything. He was very open. He was very honest.
Daniela Jansa van Rensburg is Henry's girlfriend. She refuses to accept that the man she loves is a cold-blooded murderer. If Henry did do this, he would have to be a psychopath, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
It would be devastating for you, I imagine, if you found out that Henry did this.
But it's not something that at all crosses my mind.
And Henry's aunt, Lienta Nell, has vowed to support her nephew regardless of his guilt. Is it possible that it's just too terrible to accept that Henry did do this?
It could be that it's too terrible to contemplate. However, nothing in my mind can think that it was possible or reasonable. There is no motive in my mind.
The Van Bredars were well known. 56-year-old Martin and his 55-year-old wife, Teresa de Toy, came from wealthy, well-established South African families. With their 3 children, Rudy, 23, Henry, 20, and daughter Marley, 16, this was a strong Christian, tight-knit family.
We often spoke about how we do with our children, discipline our children, interaction between children and husband, those kind of things.
And you had no hint of any serious issues?
No. I never picked up anything that there was a problem in the family.
That
Not
could
at all.
result in this terrible, brutal event?
Not at all.
The Van Bredars had lived in Australia for nearly 8 years, but in 2014 they moved back to South Africa, leaving sons Rudy and Henry behind to attend university. When they arrived in Stellenbosch, Martin, Teresa and Marley moved into De Zolse Golf Estate, a high-security gated community with electric fences, CCTV and thermal cameras, 24-hour patrols and limited access.
She said to me, this is safe in this gated community.
But it wasn't to be. On a hot summer's night on January 27th, the Van Bredar family were together. Rudy and Henry were home from Australia. They had dinner together, and by midnight, everyone was in bed. But within hours, they were savagely attacked. Why was this case so compelling?
I think the conception of people that it's happy families. Nasty things don't happen in good families or happy families.
It was the job of Cape Town prosecutor Susan Galloway to test the story as told by Henry Van Bredar.
Henry played an important role, either as a victim or as an accused or a suspect. He was on the scene. He lived through the whole sequence.
And according to Henry, in the early hours of the morning, an intruder broke into the house. The family was asleep upstairs, except for Henry, who was in the bathroom. Henry says he saw a tall black man wearing a balaclava, gloves and dark clothes go into the bedroom he shared with Rudy and suddenly attack his brother with an axe. It does appear that Rudy was seemingly asleep, or at least in his bed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was the evidence of the pathologist and the blood stain analyst, that he was attacked first. He was in his bed.
Henry says he cried out for help, waking his father Martin, who then came into their room.
The presumption is that the father then came in and tried to protect Rudy.
Henry, now out of the bathroom, says he was unable to move and instead stood watching, frozen with fear.
And then the mother and Marley
The
came
daughter,
afterwards.
sister.
Yes, the sister, yeah.
And they too have been attacked.
Yes,
With an axe.
with an axe.
It was only then that Henry says he struggled with the intruder, whom he claims laughed as he wielded his axe. He was a lucky man.
He was a very lucky man with this axe-wielding attacker.
And no axe attack for Henry.
Yeah, in his version, the same attacker with the same intent using the same weapon, but the result is much different.
Henry says the attacker suddenly produced a knife and stabbed him, and then fled. Bizarrely, Henry's first thought wasn't to call for help, but to instead call his then 16-year-old girlfriend, Bianca. She didn't pick up. Henry then says he passed out on the stairs. Just after 7 in the morning, Henry says he regains consciousness and calls for help.
I family and we were attacked by a guy with an axe.
Was it an act?
His sister Marley, on the brink of death, is rushed to surgery. The axe wounds she suffers are horrific and in deep contrast to Henry, who's treated for superficial cuts. What was he like?
Like total calm. You would expect all that rage and stuff inside, but there was nothing. He was just calm.
But when he's telling you this story, are you thinking to yourself, wow,
Is it possibly true? Can it be what he's telling me? Can it be the truth? Well, to me personally, I said to myself, no, this can't be.
you knew?
I knew this can't be. But I can't just say to you, no, you are lying. I have to prove it.
Coming up, no doubt from the police. What kind of person does do this?
I would say a psychopath.
But Daniela stands by her man.
I felt very safe around him.
You have never feared Henry?
No.
And the prosecution's damning evidence.
The DNA, the blood spatter, that was important.
For me, that was the cherry on the cake.
That's next on 60 Minutes.